So I was speaking with my aunt not too long ago, and she was talking about the importance of understanding the duality and the divine side and the shadow side of both, of everything, right? Of masculinity, of femininity, of patriarchy, of matriarchy, of just all the things, right? She was just, how aunties do, run that game to you on some nephew. Like, you got to be able to see the good and the bad in all of these things. You take the good, you throw away the bad. And so when you're talking about understanding that we're at war and how they're trying to pit that against each other, I think that's really important to understand. Um, Again, if we look at what has been happening in recently, right? We've seen people start to connect. We've seen people start to bridge those gaps. In 2020, right, we saw a huge, large uprising, and so all of this has been like a repeated attack to make sure that any type of unity, right, can't withstand these attacks, and so that's what you kind of see right now happening, right? Mm-hmm. Just like rock after rock after rock to hopefully open up everything again.
Yeah. And what are y'all thoughts on the imbalance that we see with, from my personal opinion, the major, you know, the major disconnect is not understanding where our thrones are and who's off of their throne. And I look at the divine feminine as being one of the most targeted, um, how do you, embodiments, from our physical bodies to our spiritual bodies, but without the vessel of humanity, which is the woman, or people call her the woman, you know, um, being not only respected but protected. And we talk about the black woman being not only respected but protected. In order to for that I guess balance to come back into play, we've been kind of bamboozled to believe that we have to do it on our own, and that it is going to, um, or that it's okay to dismiss men's participation in that restoration process of balance. What are y'all thoughts on that, of what we've been taught about our relationship with one another, just as our own individual beings, but also what we were taught about what feminine and masculine is? You know what I mean? How can we actually have these conversations without taking any power away from myself or from you?
Man, okay, this I'm gonna try and keep it simple. You know what I mean? Close to 90 seconds as an answer as I can. So I always think about Egypt as like the apex and the fall of us as a people, right? Because it it, it embodied all the gold and the science and the shit that people can't explain to this day. Um, I also say it's the reason. It's also the beginning of the fall, because at that time, like we were in power for so long, like it's a time of immemorial or immemorial, however they say the shit. It go back to where you can't write about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and it's unfathomable. You know what I'm saying? Like for folks to think about that, like we've been navigating the seas and we know the shit. Inside out. Like it's part of why like a lot of shit in our DNA just come natural to us. It's hard to explain. The reason why it's the fall is because like that was the time where man decided to say, "I hear you, Queen, but nah." That's just pretty much it. Like you know, the council was the the woman, the queen. You feel me? It wasn't the pharaoh who ran shit. You know what I'm saying? He was just the face. He was the armor, the shield. You feel me? Like there are in ruins, but there are examples and statues of like goddesses, queens that have their child who is also a pharaoh, right? Who's also like in a miniature version sitting on her lap. Why they do that? Because to remind you who you come from, to remind you where the true power lives. Now, when you go to Egypt today, with amongst all the shit that's in ruins, and the faces that's been chiseled out, and the pointy noses and shit like that being
Right.
put in place, the only thing that remains is examples of men. There may like there's the Queen Hatshepsut. You can't deny that. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like she was one of the first known pharaohs to man, but that don't mean like she was the only one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there's mostly like statues of like Ramesses and shit like that, right? They leave those up, but in terms of the holiness of like Ma'at and all of that stuff, like Newt, and they don't talk about that. So that's where I feel like the flipping of everything upside down began. You know what I'm saying?
And to your point, like I think, right, I'm gonna bring it to this. Like we've forgotten who we were. Like that's what they've tried to do, right? And if you go back and you study us on the continent, the matriarch was always important, right? Usually that's how, again, in West Africa, like that's how they could find the next, right? Like your lineage was traced through your mother's line, right? If you were supposed to be next in line for the throne, or that was important. And even if I'm going to bring it to look at our community even to this day, black women have always been the staple of our communities, of our families, of our, you know what I'm saying? And so when you look at it that way, there's no one who could love you like a black woman. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at these things like the Welfare Act, when you look at those things, you can see in policy the ways that they try to attack us. They try to divide that because, like you said, if they're together, when they were together, we had power, we had control, so they know that if the black man and the black woman are able to be together, if they're able to reclaim their Africanness, if they're able to reclaim their roots and who they are, and remember that love, remember that throne, whose they are, all those things, that right is a threat to the empire. So I think that's why you see that war at war. You could look at it in Asada. She talks about how her parents would fight, and because there's this image of what it was supposed to be like. And so when you think about those things, you can see how they're attacking that divine masculine and divine feminine because of what it can bring.
Right. And I like to have this conversation a lot with like my girlfriends, because it's like we've had many examples of why we've internalized, I guess, our dissatisfaction with how black men and black women interact with one another. But I say it all the time, you can't hate men and claim healing at the same time. Those cancel each other out, actually. You can't push certain propaganda that is anti the restoration of unity between the two and still claim that you're healing, or that you're progressive, or that you are for your people. You can't be for your people when you are not for the black family. That's just how I feel. And to me, when I look at just the state of the world right now, it's the lack of information and the lack of information, but the lack of understanding of pattern, of why, like you said, what would it benefit the empire we're currently existing within for us not to be on the same team, for us to hate one another and to look at each other as enemies, as the reason why I'm not at my highest of highs. You know what I mean? That a man or a woman is the reason I'm at fault for that. Not just any man or woman, but black men and women specifically, and what we pass down to our children, when that is our philosophy of how we think. Do you think that it's possible to reconcile with one another to the capacity to actually restore our own?
I do. But I think, and that's a faith that I have in us as a people, regardless.
Yeah.
Right? I think that we have all the answers that we need. I think that when we find out who we are and find out that truth, I think then it gives us the ability to get there. I think it gives us the ability to heal. I think when we're beat down so much and we, like you said, we're constantly propagandized. We're kind of like, and so we naturally conform to the ways of the world, to the ways of this empire, right? Like that's the propaganda that's pushed on us 24/7, to where, you know what I'm saying? Like even you saying the black family, certain people are gonna take that as anti-LGBTQ, and that's not what you said at all. You just said the black family, and the black family has looked a completely different way than the European family from the jump,
Right.
from the time we were on the continent.
Right.
So when we think about that, again, it comes back to us reclaiming in our relationships, loving whoever you want to love that has nothing to do with divine femininity or divine masculinity, right? It has nothing to do with the family.
Correct.
That's all, like you said, relational, and we're relational people through humming, through singing, through dancing, through all the different things, through cooking,
Right.
right? Like, so it gets back to us being comfortable being ourselves,
Right.
being Africans, and being able to be our full human selves,
Right.
right? And so then that way, whether I see you as my sister, as my lover, as my whatever, I'm able to treat you with respect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The way if I see you as my brother, if I see you as the op, what am I treating you at? So to me, it's how do we relate to each other? How do we relate to ourselves? And then how do we relate to each other? But I 100% believe that, again, I couldn't be Pan-African if I don't think we could restore, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that love, right, will shine through and allow people to see something different, and we can build something different.
Absolutely.
For sure. I agree. I just definitely want to shine like space on the fact that the work of the reconciliation, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. Like we gotta address, like, you know what I'm saying, whether however spiritual or not you is, you know what I'm saying. Like I'm a firm believer. Like this is not my first walk on the planet. You know what I'm saying. Like definitely been here before. So with that being said, you've been here before, right? And we need to address these past lifetimes that we've been in,
Right.
because it's there's so much that's been passed down into us. With us being embodiments of our ancestors, there's trauma that we got to address, and not trauma bond. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's where the destruction came from. Like in terms of like the unhealthy relationships.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like nah, I'm not trying to trauma bond. I do want to address the fact that we came up in a whole different environment where motherfuckers was like forcing us on each other. Was you feel me? Like the lynching, the Willie Lynch theory, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like taking the strongest leader, you know what I'm saying, and make an example out of them in front of the whole community. So now the mothers that saw that and children that witnessed that, you know what I'm saying, out of fear for their child who is a natural born leader, they just saw what they did to that natural born leader that was in the community before we was on this plantation. Like that's who we went to when we looked for solutions or answers. Now I'm going to beat my child before that white man does, because I don't want that happening to my kid. So I'm gonna beat them. I'm gonna beat the fear of God in them.
Right. We talked about that last episode as well, about reconciliation, and it wasn't even on the state of relation to each other as, you know, in the romantic sense, but just the fact that there's been damage done. And when we don't have that historical context, we're looking at each other as the reason why things are the way they are. And we have a certain responsibility, absolutely. And that's where the healing comes from. Because if you put it all in the oppressor's court of this is why, the reason why it is, that means the oppressor is the only one that has a solution as well. So we have to figure out how we have done damage to one another, but how that has also influenced our behavior, whether it be conscious or subconscious, you know. And a lot of it is subconscious. It's in our music. It's in how we look at each other. It's in our art. It's in how we move. It's in our language, our tone. You know what I mean? Of how we look at black men and black women. So those are the things that I feel like.
We identify them.
Yeah.
Oh,
literally.
she a red bone.
Yes.
She high yellow.
Yes.
All that.
Yes.
The good hair,
Yes.
all of it.
All of it. So let's talk about what's going on right now. we were touching a little bit on the conversation of the decision regarding Roe versus Wade, all of the decisions really going on in California, but just in the United States. Can we touch on that and just kind of like give the people a quick pattern demonstration of this is the state of the world, but this isn't new. So our frustrations and our emotional responses to it are valid, right? But they don't equip us with the proper response to actually do something about it or to move in a different way that empowers the people. It's typically fear mongering, right? It's typically feeling powerless and hopeless regarding what the law is saying we can do and can't do. But can y'all speak a little bit about like what's going on in your perspective on Roe versus Wade and Kerry and those type of things of how that affects the black woman's mind, body, and spirit, but also how that affects the black man's mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. I would say that, again, kind of like we talked about, Roe versus Wade is, to me, at this point, political theater, right? And again, it takes us to have a material analysis to understand who the Democrats are and who the Republicans are, that they all on the same team, right? Because if you don't, then you start to feel, then you'll buy into that propaganda because the Democrats already did it. They already done sent you an email. If you sign up on a newsletter, if you sign up on a newsletter, they already sent you an email. Yes. Or they already sent you a text message. NAACP probably already did too. You know what I'm saying? Like these reactionary groups are already sending out, oh, donate $15 so that we can hit the polls in November and revert. Like, bruh, that's exactly what they want us to believe. This election, there's a great poem from Darius Simpson, he's like my favorite poet, called "This Election is the most important of our lifetime." Again, because it's every time. It's every time, and so this is the new way. Last election cycle, it was Trump. You got to save the democracy from Trump, right? And now it's gonna be you got to say, oh my gosh, we got to overturn Roe versus Wade, and if we do, and again, like I don't want to be dismissive. I don't want to be disrespectful. Reversing and then the ability to re-reverse Roe versus Wade would be huge, right? But that is a symptom of what we see happening. This is all designed to keep people fearful, to keep people worried about an election, to keep people focused on electoral politics, to keep that. That's not where safety lies. That's not where community lies. That's not where health and healing lie. Right. But if
it's divided.
Right. So now it's, oh, I'm gonna fight about Roe versus Wade. You sitting outside the Supreme Court. Them folks appointed for life for a reason. Right. Okay. You feel me? Your protest doesn't matter. Yeah. You not and what are you gonna do? Everyone's talking about vote, vote, vote. What are you gonna vote? You can't vote a Supreme Court justice out. Yeah. Oh well, you voting for the president that's gonna appoint him. Yeah. Every president been the same. If you don't believe it, go check the policies. You know what I'm saying? So like when we start to put things in that context, we start to see again, this is just another one of their attacks. Right? They have been at war. And the way that they have waged war has never altered. It has continuously been through legislation and policy making. It has been through attacking black bodies, right? Through dividing us, through dividing the multiple nations that are here that aren't European. That has been the tactic from day one. And this is just another one of those, right? Another way to say, we have control here. You don't have control of your body. The same way that you see that with the 13th Amendment's exception clause in California not being removed, right? It's another way to control bodies. Right. And that's what this is all about, control and compliance. It's not about what does a woman get to choose. That's not what it is. And like I was sharing off air, right? Because if it was about body autonomy, the same way that the shot was, those folks who supported non-vax, and again, this isn't a non-vax versus vax debate, but if you support people having that decision, how do you not support women having that same decision, right? And so you start to look at it in that way and realize this isn't about, it's about, like you said, dividing. It's about forcing people to feel one way or the other so that they can't see what's really happening, the bigger game, the war that's being waged. And so this is just part of that war to psychologically and physically to keep us all discombobulated.
Yep. Yep. It's a psyop. It's a tactic in war. It's a psychological operation. Like what like in actual like warfare. What like an example of that method is to like certain goddamn armies would play white noise like all night just to drive the opponent crazy, just to get them like emotionally unstable for war, and that's what's happening for all of us. You know what I'm saying? It's flat out a psyop because it invokes our emotions. It urges us to react.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And what are you as men, right, taught about what you should and shouldn't speak on in regards to women and our rights? Because we're talking about human rights. If we're talking about body autonomy, we're talking about that should be a human right, and it's not a human right here. You feel me? That is something that they feel like they can take from you and give to you as they please, right? What have you been told from growing up till now of really your place when it comes to conversations regarding women's rights around their bodies?
I was really lucky to have the dad I did. Like I know that for a fact, right? He laced me with so much game. Now again, he was OG and he had some stuff he had to unpack and like some stuff that I had to unpack from him. You know what I'm saying? But one thing that my dad was always big on, and again, I told Dre this a while back, like my pops gave me my grandmother, his mother, my maternal grandmother's maiden name. So my pops was always on some like, you know what time it is. And so he always was like, to your point, this is human rights. Like if you and your young lady, you feel me, your young lady friend, that's what he used to say, right? If you and your young lady friend, that's y'all decision. Right? Like, and whatever decision she want, you need to try to support that. Now, you might have your feelings and you might need to share that with her and talk that through.
Right.
But whatever that young lady is deciding, you're going to rock with. Right? And not even just your partner. That's for all your homegirls type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't shame nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And so that's kind of what I got put on. But, the world will tell you something different. Right? The world will tell you, especially as a young man, like, you're supposed to be damn near encouraging ladies that, well, come on, baby. Like, we can't. Right? And so, like, that's, like, what's fed to you. Like you said in the music. Rappers talking about make her eat the pill. You know what I'm saying? All those things. And, like, but again, that's warfare. That is psychological warfare. Again, we can see that, especially with music, the way that who took over the industry type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can see what happened with Pac. You can see what, you know what I'm saying? All those things. So this psychological warfare, again, it is strategic. It is. So they are intentionally throwing those rocks so that, again, if we go back to who we are as Africans, that's all out the window. It's out the window, right? But if we continually see ourselves inside of this and what they tell us who we are, then that's when we don't have a right. And again, going back to Africa, we've always been a people who sat down and had conversations with each other to figure things out, to hash things out. And it's only here that is, you don't talk about politics or whatever here. But that's not what it was for us.
Right.
And so when you look at that, again, it's just a way to strip us of who we are so that we can't be in relationship with each other. We can't be communal with each other. We can't have a community. Because if we're in community, now we're having these full conversations where everyone is involved and everyone is learning from everyone else. Yeah. And now, how, as a young man or as an older man, you know what I'm saying? Now we're in this table with these young ladies speaking, with these elder women speaking. Now, even if I don't really want to hear it, I got to just sit with that for a second. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, even myself, I have preconceived notions or things that I've seen that I'm like, I don't know if I like this, right? I was talking to Nicole the other day. She was like, and she gave me a perspective that I never would have thought of. And I was like, oh yeah, bro. Like I have to just think about something or look at something a little different from having a conversation. And I think it just like you said, if we're constantly told this isn't your place to have a conversation, or stay out of that, or this is a woman's thing, or we don't need you. Now we all need each other to have these conversations because, like you said, it's a human rights issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think
Wow.
I think there's just these competing things. You know what I'm saying? For me, that I felt always. What is the world telling me? What is this thing I'm kind of being taught? But again, also I see the influence from the world in my dad. You know what I'm saying? Because he like, oh
Right.
boy, I seen you with this one or that one. It's like,
I think the willingness to have these conversations is brave because it comes with something automatically. You know, it comes with a perception from others that we're absolutely willing to take on, you know, of your opinions, our guests' opinions, and those who are simply an observation to attack us. You know, we understand it's going to come with it all. But it's even more powerful to have black men and women sitting beside each other to talk about the ways in which we both have, one, either caused each other harm, but also just how harm has happened to us, how we've internalized certain things, how we've perpetrated certain things on our own community because of what we've internalized and what we've learned and what we thought was the truth, to unlearning that and being willing to unlearn that, because that's going to be our whole life, is the process of even being conscious to what is the programming. If you've been programmed 9 times out of 10, you didn't know that you were programmed, you know? So
can't
when
blame me, brother.
Right.
Even my conditioning has been conditioned.
Come on. so I think that gentleness with one another can be incredibly healing, and it provides a safer space for us to be vulnerable about the ways in which we've failed ourselves, the ways in which we've failed each other, and figuring out how do we reconcile. We talked a lot about reconciliation in theory on the last episode, but it's like, okay, well, how do we have those conversations? And to me, it looks like this, you know?
I have a little bit of a challenge understanding, like
Okay.
I understand the psyop aspect of things, but like just when I observe and I see, you know, the divide, and knowing like just learning history, like Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood and the, you know, the racist, you know, ways that even back then in the 70s they looked at the black family as the biggest threat.
Yes.
Like it really wasn't a revolutionary like that. It was the black family, the black household,
Specifically.
right? So it's not, you know, we know the whole welfare, get the black man out the house and we'll give you some money type shit, you know, to take care of your kids. But what I do have a hard time, like, just trying to I'm just trying to understand if the infant mortality rate in the black community is the highest compared to any other nationality. Right, and correct, y'all. Again, I'm open to learn more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? From what I learned, our community, you feel me? Like it's like we're dying through. Like the numbers are high. If you know, I know it's like perception to whomever. You know what I'm saying? But like we consider these as far as like the babies, the fetus, if you will, like the numbers are higher when compared to police brutality. You feel me? Anything that we look at as like what's an attack to us as our presence as a people and things of that nature. Like my daughters are, you know, my oldest daughter is talking to me about this. You know what I'm saying? Like she's asking me, you know, and we talked about laws of nature, laws of my eye. You know what I'm saying? Like we look at what naturally, you know, just is. There was never a place to send our elders. We didn't send our elders to an elderly home. We didn't have prisons to throw away the people that did something mischievous in the community. Like we didn't do that.
Us.
So I'm just I just have a hard time understanding like I get like money in the society and all that shit is a factor, but if we learned like you know what I'm saying like, and I know like this even my daughter asked me, she said, well, what if she was raped, you know what I'm saying, like what if she wasn't healthy, what if, you know what I'm saying, like, and like she knew like it's not gonna be, you know what I'm saying, and I just wonder like, I mean, like, how responsible are we?
I think to your point, right? Again, like when you're saying those things, what I'm like seeing Asada's words, right? Before she has her baby, like in her autobiography, she's talking about like these people almost had me kill my baby before I even had my baby, because I think that is, and I can speak to like us when we found out Haven, like my wife was pregnant with Haven, and it was like, bro, we're about to bring a baby into this right now. Not like, we had 3 kids. Like, niggas, we was already. It wasn't about like, can we handle this? Can money? Like, it was literally like, bro, like, we're already hella afraid for these kids. We're supposed to bring another baby in and let them face that same world. And I think to that point, that's where you see so many of our, and look at again where it's placed. So if you consistently told that it's hopeless, you told that nigga ain't shit, he ain't gonna help you. If that's all you hear, and you hear you living in poverty, I mean, like, you almost be not human to really be like, bruh, is this the best decision? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter about money. It don't matter about none of that. Because as a dad, you never ready. You could be a million, you ain't ready. If you ain't had kids and you think you ain't ready,
shit, look at
you
Kanye.
ain't ready.
Look at Kanye. That nigga got billions. I said this is the last episode. Shit still ain't easy. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna be all peaches and cream.
So, like, I think when you start to think about that,
and I know of like, and again, like with this situation for what if she was raped, right? Like, I know of people who were, and they had their child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and they said like, I'm gonna be mad at the child. You know what I'm saying? Like, this baby didn't do nothing to me. It was this motherfucker that did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's a very human, thing to decipher and like try to sort through and try to understand. Because as a woman, I haven't had an abortion. I haven't had that experience to where that was a choice on the table for me. It was an option, at a time. You feel me? In the world where it was protected. My rights were protected under that. In California, it still remains. But if I ever decided to relocate to one of the states that's no longer an option, I'm in trouble, one. But also, I think it is very human and necessary for us to talk about what are the alternatives and what we should be promoting. It's not about is abortion the right thing or the wrong thing. It's the fact, should someone have the ability to terminate a pregnancy that they don't want? Because even we talk about, money's not a factor if you're going to be ready or not, right? And that's commonly a driving factor, right, for fathers. But we also know just because you have a child doesn't mean you're ready to be a parent. Doesn't mean you'll even be a good parent. So some of the people who don't want to have a child may end up being some of the best parents because they are understanding the consideration of these are all the things that I am not prepared to handle, and I do not want to bring that child into that world. You know what I mean? So I think the grace has to be present in understanding that people should have the choice, but also the nuanced area of, well, what are all the factors environmentally that are creating or that are created around a woman for her to want to resort to that or feel like she has no other choice than to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, and like I was going to say, like you were just saying, like we didn't have elderly homes. We didn't have those things. That's not the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like that we currently are in. Like the conditions show that like we are so isolated. Yeah. And so when you feel isolated, your choices do get, because again, there's probably, I can't, I don't want to put a number on it, but there's probably so many sisters who are like, if I just had a tribe to do this with, oh yeah, it's good. But what I'm not gonna do is like bring this baby in and not be able to support it the way I want, or you know what I'm saying, like put the baby in foster care, and then you see these white parents adopting black babies, killing them, all type of weird stuff. So like all those factors, you know what I'm saying? Like I think to your point, how do we create a way to where people feel comfortable if they get into that situation, if they have an elderly parent, if they get pregnant and they do want to keep it, but they don't have a family to support. I think all of those things, right? Like, how do we create, again, that relationship, those relationships, that bond that allows us
Absolutely.
to be healthy and free, and now we're making decisions clear-headed, where now it's just like, if I make this decision to have an abortion, it's 100% because I'm choosing, like, I just don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Compared to, like, I wish I could, but, like, I don't have the resources. I don't have the, you know what I'm saying?
And, you know, this conversation will be incredibly triggering to a lot of people. But I think, though, the talking about that part is important because we get to see the hypocrisy and priority. That it was a priority to take control over the woman's body rather than to look at the environment of why she would even need to make that choice in the first place.
Right.
And that's where I think the rage in women is very much present, and the fire in women is very much present. And we, again, the imbalance of what we see with the divine feminine is, it's not going to be pretty if we're continuing to go about this way to oppress the choices that we have as humans. And I think that is where the anger comes from. It's like, why are you worried about my womb when, even if I decide that I do not want to keep this child and I want to give the child up for adoption, the system that is running under adoption is shit. But that is your choice that you're saying I have. You know what I mean? It's like these options aren't really options.
What choice do I
really
it's
have? Not really a choice. So I think, at least from my experience as a woman, with my relationship with other women, is understanding the part that men play is to want to ask more questions first before putting judgment or opinion on a woman's choice over her body. You know what I mean? Of do we ask women who have had abortions what that experience was like mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Do we talk about what is the aftermath of when it is completed and when it is done, or when somebody wants one and then they decide they don't want, or they decide that they don't want an abortion anymore and they want to keep the child? What is the path? You know what I mean? That continues down. We don't when we talk about, when we say that men aren't allowed to be in these conversations with us, we are also causing harm to ourselves as women, because we need y'all. We need y'all on our side.
And remember we were talking about freedom?
Yeah.
And like responsibility being like a really important aspect of it, right? Like, all right, if we kind of get that, even if we don't know everything, like, it's okay, we're not gonna know it all. But if we can have a sense like this society that we in is not naturally on point. You feel me? It's perverted. It's all of this. It encouraged us to have sex at kids. You feel, at a young age. You know what I'm saying? Like we gotta be more responsible.
100%.
Like flat out. You feel me? We'll have a baby. We'll raise a baby before we'll raise a plant.
Or ourselves.
Well.
Okay.
Jeez. Well, and I think, like, to that responsibility point, right? When we're talking about who has autonomy over whose body, who makes these choices, like you talked about, her getting pregnant wasn't like a solo action.
Yeah.
And so how do we responsibly handle that?
Yeah.
And then, and as a man, how do you responsibly respond? How do you support her in whatever decision? How do you not judge? How do you come and have a conversation? Even just like, I know that sounds crazy. Like Dre was super vulnerable and just was like, I need to know. How many men want to say that?
Yeah.
Right? Brothers be like, no, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want you to do it and that's it because I said so. Like, no, like, okay, if you don't want her to have an abortion, so why, bro? So are you ready to do this? Because again, brothers run out too. You know what I'm saying? White boys run out. Everybody, our dads run out. You know what I'm saying?
And we encourage to like, you know what I'm saying? Like when we got a girl, you know what I'm saying? Like we get high fives and you know, oh, I seen you with the, you know what I'm saying?
But let her get pregnant. Let her get pregnant. Damn, so, bruh. You was tripping.
Right.
Man, it's sad. It's so sad, but it's true.
You know,
it's true.
And to that point, right? Like I was saying, like we're putting all of this responsibility on these women.
Yeah.
Bro, you know what I'm saying? You was there. You could have used a condom. Like now they got male birth control. Like what steps? How would we be responsible?
Right.
To her, to ourselves, to this could be baby.
Right. I think too the responsibility comes from the preventative steps. You know, of how do we better position our women to make choices that empower them mentally, physically, and spiritually? Because we know that abortions take a toll on a woman's body. We know that abortions are not something that women just want to do. Like, you know, that's not just something that is exciting or it's not going to cost. It's going to cost her either way to have the child or to not have the child. And I think because it's going to cost her, it should remain her choice. But the, I guess the preventative steps, we're not even taught about the cycle that she will go through when holding the child within her vessel. You know what I mean? That is where it's like the miseducation to me is very deliberate of us not being in tune with what does this mean when this happens, and what will this cost, and what will this birth if it gets to that point. I think that, you know, it's not even about whether we like it or not. You know, like that is up to a personal choice of like, would you want that to happen or not, right? Like that can remain a personal choice. It's just the fact of should the option be there for whatever that person decides, you know what I mean? And can I reserve my judgment for a later time about that intimate conversation of what are some other options? But I think spiritually we have to understand as women as well that our wombs have been under attack for centuries now. And it's no accident that Margaret Sanger developed that Margaret Sanger created Planned Parenthood, and they are predominantly in underserved, underdeveloped communities, specifically Black communities, right? It's no accident that Margaret Sanger actually was backed by eugenics, scientists behind eugenics, and where they believed, a Klan member. Yes, and they believed that, you know, population control was only going to come from the termination of Black bodies. So those key factors are also important for women to know. You know what I mean? This choice should be present, but also let's take a full scope of everything to where we better position ourselves and to where we better position our relationships with one another to move more intentionally, to make love more intentionally, to do those things to where, again, we are in a better position. And I think those are the restorative practices. Those are the restorative practices that are going to heal us, but also those are going to be the restorative practices that unite us, because there is no Black community without a strong Black woman and a strong Black man.
100%. And like, I think to your point, that goes right to what we were talking about, right? Like even just the ability to have a conversation before you lay down with someone. What could this be? What will this bring?
Right.
And that's shared responsibility. That's being in a relationship with each other, being able to have a conversation. And it might be awkward because it's like before y'all getting ready to make love, but like yo, like, how does this look? What are we? Where does this going? Where are we? If this thing was to happen,
Right.
how do you feel? How do I feel?
Right.
Where are we at?
Do our morals align? You know, do our beliefs about what should be, do those are in alignment?
And again, but that's not what's fed to us, especially as men. You know that, right? Like, it's fed to us that, like, you got to get everything. You got to, you know what I'm saying? So then it's like, oh, she pregnant.
Now I don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Oh, well. And again, do I turn it into a rap lyric because she had an abortion? Like, no, bro. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do I, you know what I'm saying? Do I run off? Do I change? You know, so all of those things have to take a different shape. And again, about building community.
Yeah. All right, so it's on my heart. I will say that, like, it's because, like, you know what I'm saying, like, I'm healing too. I've, you know, in the past, like, I ain't perfect. None of us is, but just to know, like, when I was operating under the influence of ego, you know what I'm saying, like, just trying to protect self, you know. Yeah, I've had a relationship where an abortion had came about, you know what I'm saying? And in terms of what you said, like, you know, support the decision of whatever happens. It's like it is hard because like then, you know, in support, or, you know, like, doing what I think I can or not knowing what I can do, it harmed, you know what I'm saying, the one that I was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't look like I was dealing with it in the same way. You know what I mean? Like, years later, like, I wept, like, broke down, just in reflection of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, same way babies are made is the same way planets are. They spinning in the womb. It's like you know what I'm saying? It's a whole life force. So, you know, yeah, like, I had to catch myself just in the midst of this madness. Like, bruh, you know what I'm saying? Like, you making it work with you feel me? You got kids already, like, nigga, your uncle got 13. You feel me?
Right.
You making it happen for all of them. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't think that's like a piece, like, as far as, like, the grieving part or process, in terms of the, you know, reconciliation. You know what I'm saying? Like she still don't want to talk to me, type of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I feel the way I do, and, you know what I mean, like, just internalizing what has occurred. Like, how do you reconcile with that?
Right.
And I think, man, like, some of that, bruh, is there's always folks that, well, I don't want to say that, but there's a lot of times I feel like there's lessons that we have to learn, things we have to go through, and maybe that reconciliation doesn't happen with that other person, but it happens internally. Like you said, it just changed everything for you. Same process, bro. You feel me? Like, it changed everything. And it makes you realize, like, truth be told, like, we went to the clinic. JJ mom and me, you know what I'm saying? Like, we, like, 2-3 times. 17. And she was like, I couldn't do it. I seen his heartbeat. It was like, well, I started crying. You know, and so there's all types of, I think there, like you said, like, there's a healing, there's a restoration. Because me and JJ mom don't talk, and, you know what I'm saying? But, like, there's all types of, I think there's just all types of reconciliation that we have to get with and understand, like, sometimes it doesn't come with that other person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm learning that even just, like, with dealing with my dad's death. I can't reconcile with him other than being like, bro, I understand now. Even maybe something like you talked about, like, him, like, whooping on me, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So my reconciliation is, like, how do I not do that with my kids? How do I not pass that on? Going back to that relationship, so that Because like you said, we just continuations of our ancestors. So how do we pass that on so that, like, how do my sons not have to deal with that? How do they not have to have ever made a young lady? How can they be smarter young men, you feel me, when they dealing with young ladies? How can my daughters be smarter young ladies when they dealing with young men? And I'm only saying that in the sense of, because we talking about pregnancy. You know what I'm saying? Again, they can love whoever they want to love. But, like, when we talking about that, like, how can they be smarter in those senses? How can they make better decisions? How can they make, you feel me? Because, again, I was a young teenager when I started having sex. No, bruh. No, that's out. How can I not encourage that? Right. Right? That's, to me, that's the reconciliation. Because, like you said, yeah, bro, like, all them, when I was young and whatever, there was all them, you know what I'm saying, young ladies that I'll probably never be able to reconcile with. Of not saying they all had abortions, but of just, like, the wrong things that I did. The way that I went about as a man, as a young man, the things the world told me, how to act, how to talk to people. Growing up in San Francisco, home of the pimps, that's not, no, you're not supposed to speak to people that way. You're not supposed to look at people that way. You're not supposed to think about how you could commodify yourself for other people. And those are all the things that you know what I'm saying, I was taught in. And so how do we reconcile that and understanding that that's not who we are, understanding whose we are, understanding what our bodies are for, that they all those things, that's how to me, that's how we reconcile. It's like, how do I then grow from that? If I get a chance to reconcile with that person, I want to, 100%. Even if, like you said, it's like, it's not going to be nothing else other than we just like, yo.
Have an understanding.
Right. But I think the real reconciliation is, you know, it's about us. It's about our heart.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we're all here to learn something, you know. And we're going to learn many things over this lifetime. And some things, like you said, won't be in reconciliation with the people who we've hurt or people who've hurt us. Sometimes we may give apologies, you know, that fall on deaf ears. And sometimes we may never receive the apology that we know we deserve. You know, and it's like, and it's like, even in this space of talking about abortion, talking about human rights, talking about body autonomy, all of those things, it's like the grief side is left out as if it's not important, and it is equally as important because it will be a part of the process if a woman decides to go through with that, right? And it should be a part of the process because it's a very real, emotional, human thing to do, you know? So, one, just thank you guys both for sharing those things because this, to me, this is the reconciliation. This is when people witness these conversations happening, knowing that they can also share what's on their heart or what's weighing on them, where they felt like they were invalidated to speak on, whether that be man or woman, you know? And our children will be the beneficiaries of the healing work that we are willing to do and the brave work that we're willing to do of facing those uncomfortable conversations where we may get all types of backlash for it. But if it's your truth, it's your truth, you know, and can't nobody take that from you. So I love this episode. Wow. And that's pretty much it for today's episode, y'all. Is there anything more?
We got 3 more minutes left. We got any upcoming news for Neighbor Program?
Yeah, let's get into that. You know what I'm saying? July about to be busy.
Right. What's going on in July?
So if y'all don't know, right, Neighbor Program isn't just Neighbor Program, right? Y'all know because y'all part of it, but I'm gonna talk to y'all. Neighbor Program is made up of a bunch of dope people who do a bunch of dope work in all the ways that they're gifted. So Dre is our Minister of Arts and Culture, and he runs Foreign Native. So if you don't know, you better pull up to Estate Farms for the open mic, right? You know that Neighbor Program's going to be there, right? And we're going to be talking that shit. You know that coming up after that, we got a show with LaRussell, right? Which is huge. Not just because it's LaRussell out here, not because it's his first time in SAC. This is big on a much bigger level because, as some of y'all might know, Neighbor Program, right, was involved with handling, you know, the case with Willie Brown a few years ago when we found out that, you know, an African was lynched out here after a Proud Boys meeting and a Trump rally. And LaRussell was able to put that in his music, right? And for me, as an African, as an understander, you know what I'm saying, understanding of griots and our language, our history, that is huge. He is telling a story and telling our history, and he's including something that so many people have overlooked, so many people in this city have no idea about. And so to me, that's a huge deal that LaRussell is here. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. Way bigger than just the fact that he a dope artist and all that, because it shows, hopefully, right, what that can do, right? That what that art form, what the ways that we've traditionally told our stories, how that can still be useful. And so that's, I think, a huge thing. We have Deep Waters, right, coming to a State
July
Farm,
23rd.
right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, as always, we have our normal programming, right? We have Monday and Friday groceries. We have what's dope this year, this month, and probably moving forward is that. So for July and hopefully moving forward, we've been looking at ways to kind of get the health clinic just having more folks. You know what I'm saying? And like, how can we just make it a whole day event? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hosting a community farm day in conjunction with the health clinic and our community learning. So everything will just be put into one day. So if y'all pull up last Saturday, right, you'll be able to get your hands and feet in that dirt in Asada, you know what I'm saying? Plant something, harvest something, whatever. You'll be able to, you know, come check out the providers we have at the health clinic, get some ear seeds, you know what I'm saying?
That's fire.
And then if you stay,
All on one day.
and then if you stay, you know what I'm saying?
One-stop shop.
And if you stay, then you could come get the community learning, right? And so that's what I'm really excited about for July. Just ways that we could try to step that up. Also, we've had, you know, a bunch of veteran Panthers come through here recently. We're starting to get the space ready, make it feel like ours a little bit more, y'all. And we're going to have some paint days and things like that. But, you know, we just got an arts grant. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's a lot to be excited about right now. We got the podcast with y'all rocking. You know what I'm saying? We getting ready to put out some more content from what we've been capturing of everything that we've been doing at the Shakur Center, everything we've been doing at the open mic. So there's just, like, a lot of stuff, like, starting to roll out, a lot of stuff coming. And so I'm just excited. June was great. June was amazing. We did a bunch of amazing stuff. We had Ellen come out here from Brazil, and that was so dope. We have a new team member, and you know we're gonna have a podcast for you out in Brazil. But like, I think that you can just kind of feel it happening here. You could kind of start to see it. And what's crazy is that we kind of drew out a lot of this, right? We drew out visually what we wanted it to look like. We started designing rooms. Like, Dre had a whole masterpiece written down, and like, you know, Out the Way Wednesday. Like, all of these things are starting to hit, and it's hard to describe it other than you just know. However you want to call it, I say God, the ancestors, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is moving. There's something going on here, and it's not for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, people come in and feel the energy.
That's it.
People come into the tree and can touch it, the energy from the trees and from it like, it's just it's growing. And I can just, like, you could see it, you could feel it, you damn near could taste it, right? Like, and so that's what I'm excited for. We also are about to have, I know it's July, or getting ready to start July, but we planning a Black August collab, some merch. So like, I'm just, I'm excited. I know that we're busy, we're working, and there's so much going on in the world, but again, this place and this team is amazing, and the work that's happening here, you can feel something special. You can feel, I don't know, I can't even put it into words.
It's proactive, not reactive. That's all. Every time you feel me, Jordan say it, he be like demonstrate, but like, that's all this work. You know what I'm saying? Just to say the least, it's proactive. Like, everything that's going on in the world, and even other, like, look, you know what I'm saying, conscious community shit. Like really, one doesn't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Of what's trying to hold somebody. Like, we demonstrating. We working. You know what I'm saying?
This is the embodiment of collaboration. This is the embodiment of what growth looks like, to actively plant seeds and also cultivate that harvest. Because if you look at not just our life, but if you look at our ancestors' lives, of all the seeds that were planted in the dark, you know what I mean? And just waiting for the right time to blossom. Like, this is the time, and I feel it in my spirit for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
For sure, I
We
appreciate
love
y'all
you.
having
We
me.
appreciate you.
Love y'all. If y'all don't know, these two right here, the realest in the world. Okay, and they always hold it down for the people. They always hold it down for out of love. That's really it. They hold it down out of love, and that is the realest thing to me that a nigga can do. And so I appreciate y'all. I love y'all forever. It's bulletproof. Y'all already know. Let the whole shit go for y'all. So it is what it is, man.
Oh, hey, we gonna turn this shit upside down behind you too, man.
Right.
You know
Okay.
We got to keep that shit going.
Absolutely.
That shit going.
Hey.
Let's get it.
All right, y'all. Well, this is it for our episode, and we will talk to you soon.